Hey, Keith and Dallas here with Precision Concept Tech Tips.
Today we're going to show you how to properly maintain and care for your clutch. Enjoy, guys.
Watch and learn.
Hi, I'm Eric Siraton, and today we're changing out a clutch on a CRF 450R. And we're going to be using an 8mm and a 10mm T-handles, and also an impact wrench if you have the capabilities. And we're going to also use 2 flat blade screwdrivers just in case you need to pry out the clutch plates. Here we go. All right, now that I've gotten the bolts out, one thing you really want to make sure, especially on these bikes, is that the O-ring expands with heat. So if you don't tap on this clutch cover to release the O-ring from the larger case, it most likely it'll pop out of its groove and it'll take you hours to try to put the old O-ring back in it because it is expanded. So what I like to do is kind of tap on it, bang it down, and rotate it slightly so that you can get it to pop off without that O-ring coming off, and it stays in there nicely so that it's not just bowed out. Or else you'll spend plenty, trust me, you'll spend a lot of time trying to get that O-ring back in there. Now we're going to turn to the 10mm. Again, for speed, if you have the impact, use it. Now, one thing you're going to really want to watch out for when you're taking this apart, there is a thrust washer in here. If you just pull that off, you may lose that. So you really want to make sure that you pay attention to the items that are in there. See, it dropped out. It's a little thrust washer, and you just really need to make sure that you keep track of all your parts in your motor, because you don't want to have to try to order one of these if it gets lost or drops into your motor, God forbid. So now we're just going to try to dig in there and get the clutch plates out. What you really want to try to do is get your fingers in here and get them out. It's really tight. That's where the screwdriver comes in handy. So you put a little pressure on the one side here, and you also put a little pressure there, because if you try to kink it, it's not going to come out at all. Now that we've got the clutch out, and it came in the order, something real close to that, now what you're going to be looking for is, this clutch plate looks pretty decent. It's not very burnt looking or anything like that. And also, what I really look for is the friction, the steel plates. The steel plates have a lot of discoloration to them when they start going bad. And what you really want to do is don't be fooled by the first couple that you look at. Like, this one doesn't look that bad. That is your common misconception to thinking that your clutch is good. Your first couple ones might look good. That one looks just fine. I probably wouldn't replace a clutch if they all looked like this. But as you get deeper into your stack, they start getting darker, and then you start really starting to see a little bit of bluing in there. And when you start seeing this, you know that it's done. As you can really see, this one's really purple, has a nice burnt look to it. And if you take this one down here, this one is brand new, fresh, and it also doesn't have any discoloration. It looks like it's just a steel plate. Now that we have a pre-oiled clutch soaking in Honda HP4, let's go ahead and install it. These first clutch plate that I'm going to be installing actually is a little different than the 6 others that come in the kit. So there's 2 oddballs out of 8 clutch fiber plates. So the first one goes installed, and what I also do is, there's a groove in this one. There's a groove in actually all 8 of them. And this groove, it allows oil to pass over it. So what I like to do is I start with that groove facing up, and then also on our metal plates, there is a flat side and a round side to these plates. Now there's no wrong way to install these. You have to do it the same way through every plate, all the way through the clutch. So what we like to do here at Precision is I always put the flat side out. Flat side out, and there's no specific groove it needs to notch into. So now I just place those in there like that. Now with my second plate, I'm gonna set this one aside because I kept the two oddball plates on top. So I'm gonna set that one aside. Now I'm gonna start with my other 6. And what I'm gonna do with that groove again is I'm gonna count 2 notches over and then install it. And then I'll move to my steel plate, flat side out. Another fiber, groove, counting 2 from the second one that I placed in, moving that groove back down. And you keep on doing this all the way until you finish up your clutch plates. Now this is your final oddball. Same thing. I finished up here on this last one, and then I rotated one more for this one. So basically, if you started here, you're going to be 2 teeth off from your original location from starting. Now that we have that on, we're going to make sure that we install each part individually. We don't want to just slap this on with the washer hoping that it lines itself onto the bearing. So I'm going to take the little thrust washer, place it over to the thrust bearing, and then I will reinstall my outside cover. Making sure that it locks into the grooves here. You basically, if you didn't put that on and lock it in, you'll go up to your clutch, you'll have a ton of play in there. All right, now we'll install our clutch springs, also with our bolts. Clutch springs. Now you can replace the clutch springs as needed by either miking them out and making sure that they have the correct service standard length. We like to use the pink ones in a race application simply because there is more pressure on the clutch itself. Now on these bolts, they are a 6x1mm thread. The service spec says it's 7 foot-pounds of torque. I've seen too many people with the torque wrench put 7 foot-pounds of torque on them and break them. So I use my T-handle, do it by hand. You get a better feel so you don't snap off the bolts. Again, if you have an impact, use it. And I never finish my torque with my impact. I always finish it with the feel of your T-handle. That's about 7 foot-pounds torque. Now we're going to install the clutch cover. We also want to make sure the O-ring is seated again so that it didn't pop out and we don't have to spend a bunch of time. Put a little pressure on the brake so you clear out some room for you to put the clutch cover in. Always hand start these bolts, always. Again, there's a factory torque spec. These are my factory torque specs right here. I don't like to use torque specs on these bolts. Most of the time, a lot of people strip them out. Healy coil into these covers is a nightmare. Now that we have the clutch done, we're gonna readjust and take all the slop out and make sure that we got about a 1/4 inch to an 1/8 inch amount of slop in your clutch from the start. Basically, this is ready to go. Now you're ready to ride and go have fun.
Thanks, Eric, for those great tech tips on the proper clutch maintenance.
Hey guys, we love suggestions and questions about tech tips or parts and accessories. Visit precisionconceptsracing.com and contact us. Shoot us an email. We love to hear from you guys.
We'll see you next time.
Feedback is great.